The Drum Candy Podcast is brought to you by Drum Factory Direct.
What's up, everyone? Welcome into episode 10, if you can believe it, of season 2 of the Drum Candy Podcast. This is your host, Mike Dawson, coming to you from Drum Factory Direct in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have a jam-packed episode this week, so I'm going to try to be not quite so long-winded in the first segment here, but first of all, I want to thank Neil Scott for submitting that intro beat. This was, let's see, what's he described this as? This is emerged from experimenting with groups of 3 and 5, and it is a not especially danceable 37/16 cycle of notes. The gear that Neil's using is a Yamaha Recording Custom 8x14 snare, 18x22 live custom oak bass drum, Zildjian 14-inch A Master Sound hi-hats, a Sabian 21-inch raw bell dry ride, and it was recorded with a pair of Coles overheads in a recorder man configuration. And there's also a large diaphragm condenser on the outside of the bass drum. It was recorded at Crooked Room Studios in York, England. So thank you, Neil, for sending in that beat. I have a few others that have been sent in, but please, if you have anything, any beats you've been working on, any grooves that haven't found a home, submit them over to drumcandypodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what gear you're using, what the concept might have been behind the beat, and we'll feature it in an upcoming episode. All right, so I only have 2 things to talk about. Well, 3 things in the news section. So what's new today? First up, I announced this last week, but I want to remind you that stickshed.com is live. That is a website dedicated to buying a simple place for you to purchase drumsticks, mallets, accessories, brushes, all that stuff. It's mobile friendly. It is owned by Drum Factory Direct's parent company, which is the owner of this podcast, Stratosphere. So yeah, all the content there we created in-house. I just put up a new lesson there. There's a handful of lessons and resources. So head over to stickshed.com, set up an account, make an order, let us know what you think. 2 new records I've been checking out this week that if you haven't seen or listened to yet, you might want to. First of all, friend of the show, Mark Juliana, just released his new album, The Sound of Listening. Mark is fresh off of a pretty long tour with St. Vincent on the Daddy's Home record, and now he's out leading his own band. So I think he's got some dates in Europe coming up very soon. Make sure you check out what he's got going on. This record is really cool. I've always loved his combination of electronic and ambient and acoustic jazz. It's a really, really nice record. So check that out. That is The Sound of Listening by Mark Juliana. And another new record I've been checking out recently is by the legendary modern jazz drummer Jeff Tain Watts. It is a trio record. It is a saxophone, drums, and bass record. It features Mark Turner on sax and Orlando Le Fleming on bass. It is called Mysterioso. If you're not hip to Jeff Tain Watts, this is a good place to start. He changed the game, and he continues to be absolutely amazing. So it's a really, really nice record. Go check that one out. Jeff Tain Watts, Mysterioso. All right, now let's wrap up our discussion on snare wires with the entire PureSound catalog. Okay, let's dig into some PureSound snare wires. We have 12 models. I believe this is the entire catalog. So we're going to start with the Concert 12s and work our way up all the way to the Super 30. So let's start with the Concert 12. So the Concert series, as you might expect, is designed for orchestral snare drums, but they sound great on drum set snares as well. There are 2 models. There is the 16-strand. No, there's a 12-strand and there's a 16-strand. Here's how they describe these. They're designed for snare drums. The Concert series snare wire is crafted with strands of specially formulated stainless steel alloy for a subtle snare response that doesn't choke out the sound of the drum. These snares may be mounted by strap or string. If you look at these, the coils are a little bit looser than your kind of standard snappy snare. So let's check them out, and this is the Concert 12. I should say I'm testing all of these on one of our Drum Factory Direct 5mm thick steel snares. I've done all these wires on that exact same drum. A little bit more about that drum later, but tuned every time the drum is tuned exactly the same. I tension the wires just below the point where they start to choke, so it's consistent tension. So hopefully you're just hearing differences in sensitivity and density and sustained. All right, let's go to my personal favorite is the Concert 16. I love that model wire, especially for recording. It may not be the best thing for gigging if you need to produce a lot of sound, but if you need controlled snare sound, which for me, recording, oftentimes the last thing I want is more snare buzz or more snare sound in my recordings. These Concert 16s are really, really cool. So if you haven't tried those and you have a studio at home, you might want to give these a shot. They're also great on lower volume acoustic gigs, and obviously they're good for symphonic use as well. The next model is also a 16-strand wire, but it is a unique design. They call this the Equalizer series. It's a 16-strand wire, but it's on the end clip that would fit 20 strands, and they just left 4 of the strands out of the middle. It is designed for snare drums. It features medium gauge wire. They're saying best for rock and funk. I think theoretically, the concept is to not have wires going through the center of the bottom snare head, which could theoretically choke the sound a little bit more. So it should be a little bit more open sound, but with controlled response. So let's check it out. This is the Equalizer 16-strand snare wire. All right, now we're going to move into the standard number of wires, which is 20. That seems to be the most standard these days, and PureSound has 1, 2, 3, 4, at least there's 5 models that we're checking out here. The first one is kind of the ground, the baseline for their basic wires, which they call Custom Series, which has a nice high-end, I think it's a phosphor bronze end plate. Medium gauge wires, evenly spaced. They have the tighter coils that are kind of more traditional for drum set drums. So this is kind of your baseline 20-strand Custom Series wire. Next up is the Custom Pro series. This is also 20-strand steel. Custom Pro has a different end plate with creases towards the corners, which elevates the end plate off of the bottom head just a little bit. And they also come with a specially designed grow grain strap with a pin, so you can very easily pull the pin out and take the wires off if you need to change heads or change out the wires. So it's a quicker install, and these elevated end clips. What's it supposed to do? Let's find out. So this is the 20-strand Custom Pro steel. This model is a Custom Pro, but it has 20 brass wires. Can you hear a difference? Let's take a listen. now we have a 20-strand blaster series. What is the difference with the blaster series? It looks like the end clips are a little bit smaller. Possibly the coils are a little bit tighter. It still has medium gauge wire. They're designed, according to D'Addario, for increased snare presence. So this is the 20-strand blaster series. Now here's the most unique 20-strand model that PureSound offers. This is the Twisted series. So this has technically 20 strands, but there are 2 wires coiled together for each strand. So I guess it's a 40 strand if you wanted to actually count the wires, but it looks like 20 strands as groups. So you've got a tight coil for each 20 that's comprised of 2 wires. Should obviously be, increased snare sound. They're saying these snares equal strands at the highest sensitivity, even at lesser tensions. This is a cool one, so check out the 20-strand Twisted series. Now we're moving up to the 24-strand wires. First up is the standard custom series 24-strand steel. Now we have the Custom Pro 24, which again has the elevated end clips and the special pin to allow you to quickly install the wires. And now here's the brass version of the Custom Pro 24-strand. Okay, the biggest snare wire system that PureSound currently offers is the Super 30 series. 30 strands. It is, again, it's medium gauge wire of tightly coiled snappy steel. If you look at the end clip on these, there's a little bit of extra room on the ends, so the coils are maybe pushed together slightly tighter than on some of the other ones. But 30 strand Super 30s. Let's check it out. All right, I know that was a lot of snare wire demos, but hopefully that kind of educated your ear a little bit about maybe which number of wires and maybe some of these different types might be more appropriate for you. For me personally, the Concert 16s I'm using a lot in the studio. The regular custom 20s are my go-to for just all-purpose use. I really like the blaster. I think it gives me just a little bit like a stronger snare sound without it rattling too much, which is cool. The Twisted 20 was really kind of neat. I like that extra density of snare sound. So yeah, and the Super 30 I think is wide enough to give you that longer bit of white noise, but not super rattly like a 42. So yeah, hopefully this helps you educate you on some new purchases. If you want to try something unique, check out that equalizer. But we have all this stuff in stock at drumfactorydirect.com. All right, that is it for Snarewire demos. Let's get to our featured artist. This week, Tom Wendt is interviewing legendary Brazilian jazz drummer, composer, bandleader Duduka da Fonseca. Duduka has a new record coming out next week. They'll talk about a bit more here, and I'm going to let Tom do the intro. So this is Duduka da Fonseca.
We want to welcome everybody to this new edition of the Drum Candy Podcast. It's such a pleasure to be here, and we have one of the great masters with us today, one of the great masters of both the drums and of Brazilian music and Brazilian jazz, the great Duduka da Fonseca. Welcome, Duduka. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you very much, Tom. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I've been looking forward to talking with you. And I wanted to start today by sort of going all the way back with you. You were born in Rio de Janeiro, correct?
Yeah, I was born in Rio a long time ago, in 1951.
1951. That's great, man. So, just so everybody sort of understands, you and your journey, how did you come to the drums? How did you first start playing?
Well, since I was very little, like under 10 years old, and a neighbor, used to play, a father of a friend of ours used to play brushes, Mr. Ville, and I was fascinated by, he used to play, with that song, Jeremy Richardson, So I had this single, and I always, look at that brush, and I was like, wow, I want to play like that. And all the time in class, in the classroom and everything, I was always, playing with my hands in the where I was supposed to be writing, taking notes. And when I was 13 in 1964, my mother and my brother, went to downtown Rio, and with a friend of mine that's not with us anymore, is Marcos Palma, and he's the brother of the great drummer João Palma, that we live in the same street. And João Palma was the one that's played with, in my opinion, the best albums of Antonio Carlos Jobim. And he also played with Brazil 66, and he lived a long time in the United States. And we were neighbors, so I learned a lot from him. He was my idol at the time. And he was already a professional drummer. And Ipanema at that time was completely different. In the 50s and 60s was completely different than it is now. Also, my mom, Norma, my mother, loved to listen to Chet Baker, to Louis Armstrong, to Nat King Cole, to Frank Sinatra, Jerry Mulligan, and so many others. She loved jazz. And Ray Charles, and at the same time she used to listen to Antonio Carlos Jobim and João Gilberto and Johnny Alf and Dorival Caymmi and Luis Bonfa and all the great Brazilian greats. So I grew up with that sound, the jazz and the samba, that's already the Brazilian rhythms that already in my blood, And since I was a kid, I want to mix, in equal parts, not one serving the other, but mix in equal parts, and make something mixing with those two cultures, And I'm 71. That's what I'm still trying to do until now. So And my mother, Norma, was very responsible. She's 93.
Wow.
She's 93, and now she learned how to talk on FaceTime. And we talk every day,
Wow.
And so, uh, and she met Chet Baker. She met in France. She used to be, in the 50s and 60s, a very independent woman. What was very rare
Hmm.
in the United States and in Brazil was even more, because like being a South American macho country, that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But she worked, because my father was João Luis was an Air Force pilot for the Brazilian Air Force,
Oh, wow.
and my mother always worked her whole life. She always had things to do, and she
Hmm.
was very independent woman at that time, which was very rare, you know. And she helped the whole family with that, doing her work.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of her, and I'm a big fan of her.
Yeah.
And
That's wonderful, man.
that's helped me to develop my passion for the jazz. And
Hmm.
then, like I said, João Palma, the great drummer João Palma, that plays with Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66 and Jobim, and many other ones, Frank Sinatra recorded. And I went, his parents' house was right 100 meters from my house in Ipanema.
Hmm.
And my brother and myself used to be the best friends with his younger brother. So we went there almost every day to listen to jazz, to Wynton Kelly, to Thelonious Monk, to Coltrane, to all, Philly Joe, Jimmy Cobb, to all Elvin Jones, Tony Williams, to hear all that music. And his house, parents' house, was a meeting point for all the Brazilian musicians that time they were older than me, like Edson Machado, the great drummer Edson Machado,
Hmm.
that innovated Brazilian jazz, on the drums, and Dom Romão and Raul de Souza, Milton Banana. So
Mm.
when I was 15, I met all those guys that were my idols.
Wow.
And they
Wow.
still, they, they most of them, they not with us anymore. But I used to go there and with my brother and with Marcos, the brother of João Palma, that lived there,
Hmm.
and we listened to music all the time. And by
Mm.
coincidence, his sister, João Palma's sister, was the fiancée of Dori Caymmi, a great composer.
Oh, yes.
So Dori was always there too. So we used to
Wow.
hang, and I used to play soccer with Dori when I was a kid in the beach, Ipanema Beach.
Wow.
So, and after a while, I said I had a girlfriend, and I said I want to go to United States to play with American jazz musicians and to blend both cultures.
Yeah.
And my plan first was going to Boston because all my friends like Claudio Roditi, Vitor Assis Brasil, Zeca Assunção, everybody, Claudio Caribé, a fantastic drummer that's not with us anymore. My God, the time flies, no? And they
Yeah.
all went to Boston, and then from Boston to New York. They came to
Gotcha.
New York. And I said, let's go to Boston. And then my girlfriend at the time said to me, no, let's go straight to New York. Is that what you want to do, right? So don't be afraid. Let's go straight to New York. I said, okay, because she wants to study communication also at the
Okay.
Hunter College.
Hmm.
And I said, okay. So we came to New York, and right after I arrived here, you know, I arrived in December of 75, December
Mm.
18 of 1975. I was 24 years old, and 24 going 25. And right a couple, 3 months after, I got invited to do a recording session in Los Angeles. So a friend of mine called me, that piano player, Aloysio Aguiar, that's also not with us anymore, a great piano player, called me, a childhood friend, and have a big production, not his album, but a big production album, and he invited me to be part of the album. So I got there to LA. I just arrived in New York, and I said, my God. Then I had a chance to meet. In the recording, it was like, for instance, Harvey Mason. I
Mm.
played 2 tracks with Harvey. He's playing funk. I was playing Baião. It's like,
Wow.
and really, the things work out. He wanted to buy a
Wow.
cymbal of me. At that time, I was completely broken, and he wanted to buy a cymbal. And I said, no, no, no. This is one I don't want to sell. And
I know that feeling.
but Frank Rossolino, Raul de Souza,
Wow.
and what's the name of the bass player that used to play with Victor Feldman too? I mean, many
Yeah.
Chuck, many great musicians, all the top, of the LA, music industry was there, and it
Mm-hmm.
was great. I say like. I love at that time. I love LA. Now I have a
Yeah.
daughter and 2 grandsons, one grandson and one granddaughter living there.
Wow. That's
And
wonderful.
my daughter, the older one, Alana, from my first marriage,
Mm-hmm.
she writes music. She graduated SUNY Purchase. She writes. I was first married with an American lady, and
Mm-hmm.
Alana writes music for Walt Disney, among many movies.
Wow.
you know
That's
she's
amazing.
doing so well.
Yeah.
I say at least someone in the family make really money with music, because she's like a millionaire. She's writing so
Yeah.
much.
Good
And
for her,
my
man.
younger daughter, with Mausha, Mausha,
Yes, of course.
Mausha Jinde, the singer. My younger daughter Isabella, she also graduates from SUNY Purchase, upstate New
Mm-hmm.
York, and is
Yes.
working at Birdland as a sound woman at Birdland.
Oh,
And
wow.
she
That's
works
wonderful.
with Ron Carter, with Bill Charlap, with every. She worked this weekend. She was working with Steve Smith in the Birdland Theater downstairs, and
Mm-hmm.
with a Brazilian, great composer Marcos Valle, that was singing there
Ah.
upstairs. She was working downstairs and upstairs, and
Wow, man. She's busy. That's great,
yeah,
man.
she's a great, brilliant sound woman, and
Wow.
she's 24 years old, you know, but she
Wow.
has
Good
some
for her. Yeah,
ears, and
yeah.
she doesn't like. Alan and her are the best friends. My older daughter and Isabella are best friends, but she doesn't. She likes more to mix live music, and she also play drums. They both play drums, but Isabella has a
Wow.
band play drums. She just was in a tour for 2 weeks, So
Okay.
I'm very
Yeah.
proud of both of them. But getting back to my thing, then I was in LA. I did this album with those guys, and I came back to New York, and I said, man, I was 25 years old, more or less 24, 25. I said, I made it in New York. That's it. I made it in America. So I went out and bought my dream set of drums, a Gretsch, that right now is in Brazil at my brother's
Okay.
house. I have a couple of drums there when I go there to play. And I said, man, I can't believe it. I make it. And then after that, you know, I say like 1 year or more than 1 year with hardly any work,
Oh man.
was like, wow. It was either rice or beans, not rice and beans, But but I don't regret. It was a great time, and I learned a lot.
That's great,
A
man.
good friend of mine, a great drummer, that at that time divorced, but he remarried. Is now the husband of the great singer composer Joyce. Maybe you know Joyce.
Yes.
His name is
Yes.
Tucci Moreno. He came. I invited
Yes.
him because he divorced. His wife left him. I invited him to live with me and my girlfriend. I had a 2-bedroom apartment in the West Village, so we lived
Mm.
like many years together. And then Joyce
Wow.
come here to United States to open a club, in the Upper East Side from the French Mafia. I used to play there too, and they
Wow.
fell in love because he was playing there. And then soon
Yes.
Joyce was living in my house too. And then Joyce went to Brazil, and he followed her. He went to Brazil, and they
Ah.
married for, I don't know, 40 years more than since
Yeah. Wow.
1977, 78, something like that.
Wow, man. I wanted to ask you in your early years of playing, both when you were still in Brazil and then after you got to New York. What were some of the things that you were practicing, that you were working on as a drummer? Could you talk a little bit about that? What are some of the things that you were doing back then?
Well, Tom, I'm like self-taught. My
Yes.
practicing was watching at the time. Bossa Nova was really strong in Brazil at that time, 1965, 64, 65, when I started to play. And by watching my idols at the time, drummers, I I play without stop. I used to play like 12 hours a day, but I never
Mm.
study, you know, formally. I always,
Mm-hmm.
you know, develop my own, a way of practicing, and that's what I do is
Mm-hmm.
still doing now. You know, at the
Yeah.
time I used to play a
Yeah.
lot with the albums,
Yes.
in the gramophone, right? And I put the albums that I love and I play with a lot, not only Brazilians, but uh, all the Brazilians and the Americans, like Now He Sings, Now He Sobs, Chick Corea, and McCoy Tyner Inception, and John Coltrane, and
Mm.
Miles, and Wynton Kelly. And I play Wes Montgomery, you know. I play with all of those, I have a big collection and many Wayne
Yeah.
Shorter a lot, all those old Blue
Sure.
Note albums with Elvin Jones and Richard Davis in
Sure.
some, and McCoy
Mm-hmm.
Tyner. And
Yes.
it was my way, and at the same time, doing gigs at 16. My brother played bass, used to play bass, and he had a
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend that plays piano, beautiful blonde, and great piano player. At that time, it was very unusual. It's not now. You see Eliane Elias, right, playing, and all those, But in Brazil, it wasn't very common, and we made a big
Uh-huh.
success. Like we had that bossa jazz trio in
Yeah.
1966. We play on TV all over the bossa nova shows in Rio. We were kids,
Mm-hmm.
playing all over town and on TV too.
Yeah.
But going back, my way to practice was doing things that think about the idea and doing things that uh, think about practicing things that I want to do that come to my mind, you know,
Mm-hmm.
not like
Sure.
one time Michael Lauren, a great friend from Drummers Collective, where I used to teach
Mm-hmm.
for almost 20 years, he told me, Duduka, some people they know the rudiments and they play, but some other people they don't know, written, but you play all the rudiments, but you know,
Yes, you do.
and I never, formally studied. I'm not
Yeah,
proud
yeah.
of that. I'm just saying what's happened to me.
Yeah,
That's
no,
my
I
life,
think I think it's a great thing to be, yeah, to be self-taught is not a bad thing. I mean, you've developed your own personal style from that, which is
Yes,
wonderful.
I did it, and I still pursuing, to develop more and more,
Mm,
and to get better and better. So I love practicing. I practice whenever I can, every day, and I love
yeah,
practicing. And
yeah.
sometimes, for endurance, I practice some things that are difficult, supposing the snare
Mhm.
or something that are difficult, that demand, you know, strength,
Mhm.
uh, and I do that because as you're getting older, you need to keep that, the muscles and everything,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. When you first got to New York and you first started working, who were some of the first American jazz musicians that you worked with when you got
okay,
here?
when I got here, you know, uh, the Brazilian jazz scene was more or less dead. We had like
Ah, okay.
Ayrton Moreira in LA doing his thing, but here in New York was very quiet because the
Oh, wow.
bossa
Okay.
nova boom had vanished, at that time. Now it's back again. But at that
Mhm.
time in 75, 76, 77 was so. I play, we had like a handful, maybe two hands, at the most,
Mhm.
of young Brazilian musicians that wanted to do something here. And we together, we're looking for American musicians, you know, and to blend, and play with them. Like one guy that loved Brazilian music and helped us a lot was Walter Booker, the great bass player. He loved Brazilian music.
Yes,
We used to
absolutely.
go to his house. When I say we, is like that group of musicians and stay there, the whole night playing, and had a chance to
Wow.
meet great musicians and play with great musicians there. I had a chance to meet Jimmy
Mhm.
Cobb and Larry Willis, the great late Larry Willis piano player, and many,
Mhm.
many other ones, at Boogie Oogie, the studios that Walter Booker had on the Upper West Side. And
Oh, yeah. Okay.
so the first guy that I remember also Steve Grossman. I don't know if you heard about, used to play with Elvin Jones together with Dave Liebman.
Absolutely. Wonderful
Yeah,
tenor player. Yeah.
he loved Brazilian music, and I remember going to his loft on Sixth Avenue and playing, and then it's like a snowball. You start to meet people and start to go ahead,
Sure.
and then you start to record also. You know, I remember that I started recording in the 70s, like 77, 78. I started my thing recording because was
Mhm.
the market was very good for that, the
Yeah.
labels, and they pay well, they have money, and the vinyl at that time before the CD. And I started recording around that time, and I had a very good memory, now not anymore, but a very good memory that I hear the music and I memorize a lot, some difficult arrangements, I still can
Mhm.
do it, just take more time now. And
Yeah.
uh, and it one thing, and then you start putting bands together. My first band I put together was in 1980. We went, they call Brazilian Express, in
Yes.
1980. But before that, I had recorded with different people, with different bands.
Sure.
And in 1980, I put my first band. I remember that was the great late Dennis Irwin on bass.
Oh, yes.
He
Yeah, he
loved
loved
it. It
Brazilian
was
music.
his encyclopedia of Brazilian music.
Yes.
And we are the best
Yeah.
friends. Those are the first friends. When I came to New York, I met Dennis, and I met Billy Drews, and I met Joe Lovano,
Yeah.
and Keith Queen, and Jimmy Haddad, and Dick Oates. And those are the cats,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm forgetting some, that we're still friends until today. And and that was great, and started playing with them,
Yeah.
with Dennis. And that was the first, Dennis was playing with Blakey, and he said, Duduka, I'm going to whatever he was going to, and said, why don't you put a band together, and I meet you in Texas, because we stay like 1 month
Wow.
playing Texas. We stay
Wow.
we playing that in Austin first, Austin city limits, and then
Yeah.
after that we play somewhere else, and then we stay 3 weeks in Houston playing a place. That time, then the gigs take very long, and I put a quartet together, which was Claudio Celso, great guitar player from Brazil, and a piano player that just arrived from Brazil, Paulo Mauricio. Arrived from Brazil.
Okay.
He was playing with Elis Regina, the great singer there at the time,
Uh,
and he arrived from Brazil. And I put together. We rehearsed the guitar, piano, and drums. And we took there. And Dennis, as you can see, could read everything. So we took
oh,
the
yeah.
we went to Texas, and we started playing. And then we did Austin city limits first. And my English, is
Yeah.
is not that good now, but at that time was really bad. I remember that after playing the first or second tune at that place, Austin city limits, I said, "Good night, everybody." And yes, because in Brazil you say "boa noite" when you're arriving, and "boa noite" when you're leaving.
Yes.
But in
When you're
America,
leaving,
you say
yeah.
good evening and good night when you leave. Good evening when you're arriving. So
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So good night, everybody was like, what the hell? They just played two tunes, a couple of songs. And was a big thing. So we went to Houston, and they invited us to do a TV program for Houston PBS. And we did. And 1 year later, they sold the program to all the CBS all over. That was 1980. 81, they sold the program. We
Wow.
did in 1980. In the end of 80 or 80, they sold Brazilian Express. And, it played all over the United States, with Dennis,
Wow.
and all the cats,
Wow.
Paulo Mauricio and
That's
Claudio
fantastic,
Celso.
man.
So that goes back, how many years? 42 years.
42
42 years ago,
yeah.
And I remember one
Man.
thing that I don't think is a Zoom interview. I don't need to say, that is not going to sound good.
We will wrap up our interview with the Duduka next week, but for now, let's get over to another rudimental lesson. This week, I'm sharing some ideas that I came up with for using the double paradiddle with different accent placements.
Let's talk about some creative ways to play the double paradiddle. The double paradiddle is 4 singles followed by a double, either right, left, right, right, or the opposite, left, right, left. Most often, the accent is placed on the first note. Right, left, right, left, left. But you don't have to play the accent on the first note. So what about playing the accent on the second note? Right, left, left, right, left, left. Or the third note. right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, left. Or the fourth note, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, left. Let's try stringing all those together. So we're going to do each variation 4 times, starting with the accent on the first note, and then we'll move to the second, third, and fourth. Right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, right. Repeat it. Right, left, right, right. Now shift to the second note. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Third note. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left. Right, left, right, left, right. Fourth note. Right, left, right, left, right, left, left, left. Left, right, left, right, left. Once you've worked out how to play those 4 accent placements, I would suggest that you just improvise some phrases using those 4 options. Think of it in 3/4, and just each time you repeat, try some different accents. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, so on and so forth. Now, since there's 6 notes in a double paradiddle, it also fits evenly as triplets. If you think of it being 2 quarter notes length of triplets, that fits perfectly. Triplet, 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 triplet. Second note. Triplet, triplet. Third note. Triplet, 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 triplet. Fourth note. Triplet, 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 triplet. Now try improvising with those 4 accent placements in the triplet subdivision. 1, 2, 3, and triplet, triplet, triplet. Triplet, 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 triplet. So on and so forth. Now, let's create a phrase that combines 2 double paradiddles and then 1 single paradiddle. We use a 16th note subdivision, so 1 E and a 2 E and a 4 E and that'll repeat on the opposite hand. 1 E and a 2 E, 3 E and a 4 E and a. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E, 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Now we're going to accent the first and third note of the double paradiddle. 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. All right. Now for the tricky part, displace those accents by 1/16th note. So now we're going to start the accent on the second note. So it'll be second and fourth note of each double paradiddle, and also the second note of that single paradiddle. So it'll be 1 E, a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E, the 1 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E, and a 2, 3 E, and a 4 E, and a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So now let's go first and third, 4 bars, and then second and fourth, 4 bars. 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now displace it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Now the key is to not change the sticking. It's always double paradiddle, paradiddle. It's just the accents to get displaced. Now that's just one option. You can come up with a million variations by different accent combinations, accent placements, displacements. You can also move that single paradiddle maybe to the beginning of the measure or in the middle of the 2 double paradiddles. So there's a lot you can do with a double paradiddle to just find some more creative, interesting options that aren't just always accenting the start of the double paradiddle. Have fun with it, take your time, use a metronome. See you next time.
All right, now let's head over to Hawthorne Drum Shop to check out a vintage WFL porto-pak drum set.
What is this oddity? This is a WFL something or other. What do you call this?
It's funny, I put this on Instagram and I said, WFL porto-pak. And then you're like, what is this?
I mean, that was more of a like, holy shit, what is this?
See, that's why you never assume anything on social media.
Because it was like, well, I would gig with this. It wasn't like, please tell me exactly what you just put in the caption. I didn't even respond.
Well, people, they ask all the time, what is this? Well, here's the title. It's literally right in the title. This makes me very excited. This is they called it a porto-pak outfit. And it's just a 3-piece kit, bass drum, rack tom, snare drum. And I think it was made, I wouldn't call it like a traveler kit, but it was like portable, something that like you didn't have a lot of pieces that gigging drummers could use in the time period. I haven't taken anything apart yet. WFL would stamp drums with dates. I have not looked inside to see the dates, but this is a 50s kit. History-wise, the guy got it from an older lady whose husband played in a polka band and passed. And he just kind of had it sit in his basement for a while, didn't use it, so he passed it along.
It looks like it's in shockingly good shape. Like it needs a cleaning and everything, but it looks...
I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All nickel hardware. This Black Diamond Pearl was talking to Joe from Wood & Weather about this. I sent him a picture because we're both big WFL fans, and this is like the best Black Diamond Pearl pattern. WFL and then Slingerland, like early Slingerland Radio Kings had like... The flake pattern kind of changes over the years, but this is just like, it nailed it.
What's the difference? Is it bigger? Bigger chunks?
This is like it's smaller, I think. It's hard to tell, man. Like if you look at the top of the bass drum, I can't describe it. To me, it just looks really good. This bass drum size, and you guys probably can't tell, is a 2212, which is my favorite bass drum depth size. I think I talked about that. I don't know if the Rogers one came out yet, but that's my favorite depth. Really punchy, 8x12 tom. Is that not? I didn't even measure this. I think it's an 8x12, but it has large lugs, which is interesting.
With a clip-on mount, which is to be noted.
Yeah, and you know what? This is actually like a good one. The Slingerland one's not that great, but you can actually get this one in like a usable position. And then this is a porto-pak snare, 5x13, maybe 5.5x13. It's got the WFL Classic snare throw off on there. This is not the original. Uh-oh.
Cut.
Oh! Okay.
Cut.
So this is not the original arm. I literally just noticed that and it came out. So we'll have to work on that. But 13-inch snare drum, a lot of, that was kind of uncommon. They made a jazz combo that was a 13-inch. And I think that they might have made a Las Vegas snare that was a 13. I can't remember.
I think it's kind of funny, like, that's not going to save you any space in your car or in your trunk to make it a 13.
No, it's not. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to fiddle with that. I don't really dig 13-inch snares myself. Some people like them, but just as kind of like the pack, this is, pretty cool to me. I obviously wish it would have a floor tom because not a lot of people play this configuration anymore.
Yeah, that was something I noticed as well. Like today you'll see more often a floor tom snare drum, bass drum.
Yeah, no rack tom.
No rack tom. But I guess if you just want to pick this up, put it in the back of your van.
I'm waiting for the guy to come out with the configuration that's rack tom, bass drum, floor tom. No snare.
No snare?
You want to talk about progression.
I mean, that's kind of like alt indie, indie country. Alt country, there's no snare.
Really pushing the limits on that.
6 lug.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 slug currently without an arm.
What are the shells? 3-ply with maple rings?
They're mahogany. So I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, I had a WFL kit that had maple shells. I've never seen one that wasn't mahogany. So 3-ply poplar, mahogany poplar, mahogany. Nice maple reinforcement rings. These are probably brass hoops, which is nice.
The nickel hoops is really nice.
Yeah, really. Just And brass hoops sound so good on toms. They really do. And even on snares.
Calfskin head?
Yeah. So they had like a big old felt pad on it, and the guy's like, I checked. It's all good behind the felt pad. And it's been patched, but it's fine. It's cool. This is an original calf on here. I can't read the logo there, but that's in good shape. No holes or tears. It does look like somebody kind of brushed the claws, the nickel off the claws, because sometimes they would rust, but it doesn't look bad at all. Really cool. Love everything about this.
Calfskin on the bottom?
Yeah, it's got a hole in it though.
So does that now.
Well, here's what happened is, the throw-off went off. These are unoriginal wires anyway, and I can just snip this. But this has you just put you can't see that, but there's a screw in here, attach that there, and that functions. But that's a calfskin resonant head. You have to look at the inside of this, kind of the mahogany looks kind of interesting. Ludwig in the 60s, most people know that they painted their shells because they were concerned about what the inside looked like. But if you look at like a white interior of a Ludwig now,
yeah, not
didn't age well.
Not too good. I heard theories that they painted the wrapped finish, not WFL, but Ludwig. If it was wrapped, it would be mahogany. If it was lacquered, it would be maple underneath the finish.
Yeah, I've heard
so you
that
could
too.
get mahogany, poplar, maple.
A lot of them are like that, actually. We'll have people who ask us, on like an old 60s Ludwig kit, what's the ply layout? And I always hate answering that because you got to pull the head off and you're like, well, it kind of looks like this or that. But that was pretty common. I've also, you hear a lot of things that, they were basically using whatever they had at the time, whatever they could get in. I've heard balsa wood. I don't know if that's true. I'd imagine that would probably be an inner ply. But nobody really knows.
It's the magic. You get a good one, you keep it.
That's what I'm going to say. Speaking of Ludwig, I know we were talking about WFL. Did come with some symbols. These are, and you can't see the stamp, but they're Ludwig Paiste. There's various stamps. This one has the 3 stars, Ludwig Paiste Chicago. These are made in Germany. It's a lower grade symbol. I think it was it's like a silver alloy, NS20, NS12.
Nickel silver.
Yeah, exactly. And, this is a really thin symbol. I was playing yesterday. It's actually kind of cool. But they kind of have the Paiste style red stamp, the size on the inside, which is neat. These are becoming more popular. I don't know, you could be able to buy this for $25, but
I have a set of these that were so beat to crap, like they were just destroyed, and they sound so good on certain recordings.
Yeah. I think that's why people that's not it's way better than the B8, but sometimes I've played one. We had one in a couple weeks ago that was it sounded like a Zildjian, and it, obviously not even close, but it was pretty good. And then these are a set of hi-hats, same thing. Got the Ludwig Paiste Chicago stamp, 3 stars.
Yeah, these are barely touched because they're not bent up or anything.
That one's a little bent, but these are a little tinny. I haven't really demoed these, but I don't think this kit saw a lot of play. Most collectors know what this is Mike's. We were having some kind of off-script talk. This is his favorite hi-hat stand. Mike, tell me what you like about this hi-hat stand. I know you could go on and on
I would
forever.
like to throw it off a bridge. That's what I would like to do.
So this is a Ringo stand. It has the WFL stamp on the foot plate, but Ringo played one of these. I think it's a model 1123.
That explains why he always just had sloshy hi-hats.
The flat bass stuff is not my favorite, but people like stuff to be period correct. I like Spurlocks better, but I will say that before they did the rubber tips, they would use one of these. The buttons on there, but
wild.
Yeah, pretty wild.
It's a cool kit. Again, what's the model?
Porto-pak.
Porto-pak.
Porto-pak outfit.
Porto-pak
with
outfit.
the porto-pak snare, which we will look at later. Very cool.
Very cool kit.
Let's get to some of your listener questions. First up here from Sleep When I'm Dead, power toms, yes or no? Cut them down or get new bearing edges and keep the aesthetic? I think that's just totally up to you. You do have to consider how much room can you cut them down, depending on where the hole spacing of the current lugs are. It might just make it impossible if the holes are already kind of, in a spot where it would just be, your new bearing edge might be too close to the holes. So that's something to consider. Consult your local expert drum builder or repair technician before you do any of that. I personally would just leave them, and if they need to have the edges touched up, do that, and just have a nice set of power toms. And then, you can always buy a vintage kit with shallow drums, not a lot of money. It might actually cost you just as much to get them cut down as it would to just buy a decent used kit or a vintage kit with shallower toms. So I would keep them as is and then just seek out some other options. Here's one from Dirk Bindle. I think that's how you would say it. What is your favorite Blue Note or ECM drum sound? Well, they're very different. I think ECM, I immediately think of Jack DeJohnette and the Pictures album. I think that's an absolutely beautiful drum sound. It's just super clean and clear and has a vibe, an ambient kind of otherworldly vibe to it. So pretty much anything Jack DeJohnette played on that label is my favorite sound. As far as Blue Note, that's just so wide-ranging. I mean, Elvin Jones with Wayne Shorter, it's an amazing sound. Art Blakey, I think, kind of defines the Blue Note sound. Hank Mobley records with Art Blakey. Billy Higgins, So again, the label Blue Note to me just means a little bit warmer and more saturated and just kind of a natural sound. So it's more like pick your drummers. Elvin, Blakey, Billy Higgins, and then I'm just getting into some of the Tony Williams stuff from that era as well. I think you can't really go wrong with any of those records. Yeah, that's my picks. All right, last one. This is kind of an impossible question, but I want to just see what I can throw out there. This comes from Rick Drum 71. What is the best snare drum head? I think the best snare drum head is the one that gets the job done for you. I think you can't go wrong just for kind of learning what your drums really sound like with a single ply coated, whether that's a G1 or an Ambassador or a texture coated by Aquarian. That kind of gives you the most kind of normal sound for your drum, but it's not the most durable thing. So if you place really heavy, your best snare drum head might be the Emperor X or the Power Center reverse dot. So for me, it's just what head gets me the results that I need for the gig, and I don't have the same heads on all my drums. For the gigs I need to play quieter, it's single ply coated. For the gigs where I'm really smacking, it's a Power Center reverse dot. So yeah, that's an impossible question to answer. But if you want to get to know what your drums sound like in its fullest range, and then you can adapt, single ply coated. All right, I do still have a few more listener questions that came in a few weeks ago, but please send in over your questions for the show to drumcandypodcast@gmail.com, or you can hit me up with a DM at the Drum Factory Direct Instagram page or my page, Mike Dawson Drums. We will get them into the show. All right, let's move on to where are we at. It is time for our warehouse pick of the week. I mentioned this earlier in the episode. All of these snare wire demos that I've done the past 3 weeks have been on the same exact drum, which is this big, hefty 5.5 by 14 steel, black nickel over steel. It has it's a big old it's a 5mm shell that's been milled down to 3. So you've got 5mm thick, like built-in re-rings, and then 3mm thick in the center. I mean, it's comparable to like a cast, super heavy cast steel, or, kind of like a bell brass kind of vibe. Hard-hitting, powerful drum. We have a bunch of these shells in stock that are undrilled for lugs. You can drill them for whatever lugs you want. You can do 8 or 10, whatever configuration you want. It does have a hole for the air vent, but other than that, you can build your own drum. The bearing edges are already cut into it. The snare beds are already cut into it. So all you have to do is drill for the lugs and the throw off. So those are over on drumfactorydirect.com, and we will also be putting these 2 drums that I had built out for these demos. They're going to be going on sale as well. So if you want to kind of hold one of those, let me know. Probably just email me, drumcandypodcast@gmail.com. We're still sort of assessing the price point for that because it's not a cheap shell. It's a heavy cast steel shell, But yeah, those 2 demo drums are going to be up for sale. But if you want to build your own, go check them out. That's the 5mm thick black nickel over steel drum shell. Oh, here's a demo. Well, that is it for this week's episode. Please head over to iTunes or Spotify or YouTube, wherever you're consuming this show. Write a comment. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Give us a review, 5-star rating. Just spread the word. We want every drummer around the world to be participating and a part of the show. It is for you. It is our community. So yeah, if you could do that, that would be much appreciated. Other than that, we're going to let Neil send us off, and we'll see you next week.